Chapter 39. For a group heading toward their likely death, the next few days were remarkably pleasant. Much of that positive morale came from Avantil, whose love of sailing became apparent as soon as they hit the water. If he wasn't singing sea shanties, he caught fish for dinner or expertly adjusted the sails to maximize the boat's speed. Bach, on the other hand, was ready to make landfall. Matters of his aforementioned likely death aside, he had never traveled on a boat, and its constant motion made him queasy. This sensation got him out of bed in the middle of the night. That and Kodarian's incessant snoring. He, Avantil, and Bach crammed into hammocks strung up in the ship's galley, a concession to the limited space below deck. Isabella slept in the lone bedroom. Even though she and Avantil again acted civilly to one another, he didn't ask to join her at night. Bach wandered out onto the deck. He carefully held one of the guide ropes surrounding the top deck, a safety feature in case of a sudden lurch. Not a strong swimmer, he didn't want to test his fate in the dark river. A beautiful night. Best time to enjoy the water. You don't have to worry about the sun or the heat. It's you, the river, and the sounds of the night. Avantil! I didn't realize you were up here, too. Bach jumped at his friend's voice emerging from the deck's dark corner. Just had to check the sails. And I suppose you needed some fresh air. Yes, I am afraid I do not share your affinity for sailing. You get used to the movement. Avantil put his hands on the boat's wooden edge and breathed in the night air. The love of water grows on you. I find it peaceful. I became aware of being part of something far greater than yourself. Bach didn't join Avantil in leaning over the rails to look at the river. He wasn't sure he had an herb in his bag strong enough to cure that much motion sickness. But seeing his friend back in a tranquil, pleasant mood pleased him, and he appreciated a respite from the seemingly constant threat on their lives. Sailing comes naturally for me, Bach. That comes from spending half my childhood on a ship. I wish matters of love were as simple. You are asking the wrong person about that, Bach laughed. I can heal just about any injured body part, except a broken heart. If you solve that mystery, please share the solution with me. Avantil shook his head as he tossed a handful of breadcrumbs to a passing school of fish. I'm sure Isabella will come around, Bach offered. The two of you are speaking again. That is something, right? Avantil thought for a moment. Perhaps. But we are not as close as before, and it is my fault. Sure, Isabella may be frustrating, but she is overly serious, entirely too busy, and, despite owning 1,000 pillows, always steals mine. But she is wonderful, for reasons having nothing to do with the crown she is in line to wear. Believe me, Bach, a long line of suitors lined up at the royal palace, all of whom she turned away in her unfailingly polite manner. Isabella told me she knew from our first meeting that she wanted to be with me. And I am grateful she did. But my pride and my temper have driven her away. He loves Isabella as much as ever, and she still loves him. Now I must prove my friendship to them both. You sound like a man who wants to find a way through the impasse you spoke of. Talk with her, Avantil. You might be surprised at how receptive she is to what you have to say. The noble looked up from the rail, and for the first time in days, Bach found the glimmer in the man's eyes that he saw at the royal palace. You know, for a man who has never left Solar Valley, you have plenty of wisdom. He clapped Bach on the shoulder. I'll talk with her. And thank you, Bach. Bach quietly returned below deck and climbed into his hammock, careful not to disturb Isabella. He felt sure nothing short of a hurricane could awaken Kotarian. As often was the case late at night, Bach thought of home. He had not yet bought Noji the gift he promised. The child loved creating adventures with the wooden dolls Tana Omat carved for him. Maybe he could get his nephew one of those painted wooden dolls from one of those fancy Ithanel shops. Noji would love that. Images of the little boy's exuberant face made him realize he couldn't be happy without his family, no matter how they may have deceived him. Yes, he needed the truth, but he would make amends with his parents, no matter what. But how could he leave his friends? Or reject Tovano's generous offer to develop his amazing new gifts? For days he struggled with the idea that he did not know where he belonged. But that was not the case. The problem was that he now had two families, each completely incompatible with the other.